Welcome to Tailspin. I'm your host, Matt. Tonight we have a special guest, John Cullen. John is an investigative journalist who has uncovered groundbreaking new evidence from both Las Vegas shooting and Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt of President Donald Trump. Originally, tonight's show was planned to focus on Butler, Pennsylvania, but unfortunately, the subject has changed. Earlier today, at 5 p.m., Charlie Kirk was assassinated at Utah Valley University. As the founder of Turning Point USA, he built the organization into a national movement, empowering students to engage in civic life. Above all, Charlie was a husband, a father, and a friend to many. He was a driving force in mobilizing young voters and shaping conversations about faith, freedom, and America's future. Tonight's program will cover the information that has become available so far, including real-time updates. Our discussions will explore questions about how and why this happened, early theories, possible outcomes, and the public's reaction, as well as ongoing investigations. Please remember, comments and questions are being shared at a time of high emotion and with limited verified evidence. This show is an open forum. Options expressed are just that, opinions. We cannot provide any statements of fact, and the program is strictly for entertainment purposes only. Now the show will begin. Yeah, it's very upsetting. I was a little teary-eyed myself. I've never met him, but I followed him for years. Good man, godly man, and just was open to speech. And I seem to think that this is our Martin Luther King moment in 2025 in this country. Um, I was even thinking like, how upset would I have been? I was upset when they tried to kill Trump, but this is much deeper because I think everybody that was conservative loved Charlie Kirk.
He's a kid. They
Yep.
got a kid. The fuck's wrong with these people?
Yeah, 31 years old. And like when we look at it from the picture of like who is really building God's kingdom with such courage and consistency.
Absolutely. Extra, I think what you're not grasping is
Yeah, probably.
this
I'm
is
sorry.
it's just not the night or the time to get into a debate when emotions are being felt. So
I
if you
mean,
feel
I'm
a
pretty
different,
emotional with the guy too. I mean, I mean, if I tell you, man, if I will tell you, but I try to be uh, very private too. But I feel it, man. I freaking feel this kind of shit too. I mean, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm too confused right now.
yeah, there's a lot of emotions in the air, and we'll just say that on the record, whatever's said tonight in this space is emotionally driven because of the sorrow and the loss of Charlie Kirk. Not necessarily actions that would be taken, or maybe even your opinion may change in the next coming days, but it's kind of expected for those who are a little emotional on this because I know I am. You might not actually be rational in what you discuss or what you say. I don't know what happened to John. I know he's tied up deeply into this. He's been putting stuff out left and right. I'm sure he's digging into information. Hopefully, he will show tonight. But I just want to ask everyone, you can just go over what the plan was tonight. We were going to have John on to discuss the Butler PA shooting and how ironically does this happen on the same day. I mean, you really can't make this shit up. But just to go over for people that don't know tonight, we were confronted with breaking news shaking America. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk is dead, shot down during his American comeback tour, which started in Utah. At 31 years old, his voice has been silenced, but will not silence the remainder of all the voices that he woke up. And as of what Gutfeld said tonight on Fox and Friends they might have silenced Charlie Kirk, but they fucking woke up the rest of us. So, on that note, I would just like everyone to just take a moment of silence, think about Charlie and his family. So, I guess we'll start off with a basic timeline of some information that came out. We're still wait for John to arrive, but this afternoon in Utah, there was an event at the Utah Valley University. Kirk was speaking outdoors at a Turning Point USA campus stop tour. 20 minutes in, a single shot was fired, striking Charlie Kirk in the neck. The crowd started to scatter. Shooter's position, authorities state the shot came from the Loud Center, roughly 200 yards away. Reports mentioned the suspect in dark tactical clothing on the rooftop. Immediate response, campus lockdown, then closed for the day. Police and federal agencies responded. We'll get into the police in a second because the information that was provided at the press conference is very disturbing to me because I come from an emergency management background and I participated in hundreds and hundreds of events similar in size, and it just blows my mind. Um, the police and federal agents responded. Kirk was transported to the hospital, later pronounced dead at age 31. The national response by 5:20 p.m. The White House lowered flags. President Trump ordered all flags half staff nationwide until Sunday morning. Conflicting early reports, initial custody claims later clarified, no suspect in custody, investigation ongoing. Key points, just to remember, the location was the university, Utah Valley University campus. It was an outdoor venue. The suspect was, they're estimating 200 yards away. I see it. John has arrived. Hello, John. Victim was Charlie Kirk, 31 years old, Turning Point USA co-founder. Motive unknown. I guess we could probably speculate. Welcome, John.
Thank you. A suspect was just taken into custody.
Yes, I see it. Well, they said person of interest, right? Or did they change that?
He's got a rifle with a scope. I'd call that a suspect.
Yeah, they weren't clear about that in the press conference. They didn't want to say until they got more information from the individual. I was talking
Oh,
about before
I
you
po-
joined.
yeah, I
Go
posted
ahead,
the
guys.
video of him being apprehended. So we have the video footage of the suspect being apprehended by Provo police with a rifle. Appears to me to be, I mean, it's not a 22. It might be a 30-06 or something. It could be a 223, but it looks like it's a bolt action. It's a long gun with a scope. And Provo police just took this guy into custody literally minutes ago.
Did you listen to the press conference at all?
Of them well, are we talking about the same guy being taken into custody?
No, the press conference with the governor of Utah. I think it was like about 20 minutes ago,
No, what did he say?
30 minutes. Well, he was very upset. He stressed the fact that they still have the death penalty in Utah. Um, and he called, for everyone to be peaceful. He was very upset. You could tell that he was crying prior to, I believe he had known Charlie. And one of the things that shocked me, my background is emergency management and event planning at the state level, retired. And I've been to over 100 planned events. I was at the Super Bowl, Breeders' Cup, um, World Cup, and all kinds of venues. And every weekend, I also worked details at MetLife Stadium with the Giants and the Jets. And they announced at the press conference that the campus police, the police chief said this: "We have a small police force, and we did everything that we could to secure the location." And then he said there was roughly 3,000 um, at the event, and they had 6 police officers in total for the entire event. How do you only have 6 police officers with 3,000 individuals attending, with such a high profile individual speaking? That right there, um, there's definitely gonna be an after action review. That's bullshit. Um, you can call them mutual aid for events like that. Where was the Utah State Police, the county, the municipality? 6 police officers for 3,000 guests at a Charlie Kirk event.
Well,
Um,
let's talk about what we know so far, right? So originally, we saw the police carry a guy away, right? Looked like an older guy, whitish hair, bald head. They carry him away like hogtied or something. You guys all saw that, right? All right.
yes, I seen
That's
it.
not the guy. They let that guy go, and they said, "We don't know. That's not the guy. We've got a manhunt underway now to find the shooter. We don't know where the shooter is." Then somebody posted footage of somebody shooting from a rooftop, apparently. Not shooting, but somebody on a rooftop. And somebody posted that footage. And then literally, I mean, that's why I was 5 minutes late, literally 10 minutes ago, bystanders, people walking down the sidewalk in, I guess it's Orem or Provo, filmed the Provo police taking someone into custody with a rifle and a scope and handcuffing him, putting him in the back of the police cruiser. And you guys can all see that if you go to my, my, what was it, the X home profile page or something like that. If you go to my profile, you click on that, you'll see it's, the first thing posted. So there's the video footage. They've got the rifle. And literally this happened 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago.
Pop, can you go to John's page and grab that and post it on the jumbo up top?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I just watching it. The stuff that he was carrying too, that little bag. Yeah.
Yeah. And we got footage of some guy up on a roof somewhere. It's like, now the question is this that guy? Is this guy they're taking into custody the same guy that we see scampering around up on that roof? Was there more than one shooter? Or is it just a lone kook? Now here we go again.
It's kind of interesting how each one of these incidents, there's always only one shooter, right?
Well, that's always going to be the narrative, right? Whether it's true or not, sometimes there is only one guy, right? So sometimes there's just one shooter. But even when there's more than one, they don't want you to know about that unless it's, blatantly obvious, like the thing that happened in Russia at the theater. It's like a whole team of people. But other than that, they don't want you to know it's any kind of a conspiracy to commit murder. No way. So here, of course, it'll be pinned on the guy they just took into custody and trying to link him to that rooftop scene that we see. That becomes the investigation. Is that the same guy? Is this kid they took into custody being set up? Like Thomas Crooks, so to speak. This kid apparently that was on the rooftop. I mean, I'm not sure that was Thomas Crooks on the roof in Butler. But or in other words, are we seeing another one of these crazy cover-ups? How many shooters were there? How many shots were really taken? Once again, we've seen this movie before. We hear one shot taken. What do we see happening to Charlie? Was Charlie hit once? Was Charlie hit twice? And that's what I got to do now, is dig into that.
What did you do? What was your first thoughts with
Lost you guys?
the close up video in 4K, um, where it looked like possibly it hit him in the chest, then maybe the neck or exited the neck. I mean, it's hard to tell with the video footage, um, the close-up footage of the shot. That was one of the things we were discussing right after it happened in one of the spaces, that it kind of looked like, because the way his shirt moved, and then his neck. Did we lose you, John? John, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. You might have to take. Oh, there we go. This seems to only happen with you.
Same thing though. I saw the shirt move. I saw him actually look up, and then it appears again. I can't tell in just a couple minutes. I'm gonna have to watch. I got a whole bunch of different angles already, and I'm gonna have to study it and figure out. Was he hit once? Was he hit twice? Again, I can't trust whatever autopsy story we're gonna get told. The story will be he was shot once.
Can you give us a little bit of a breakdown for those that are listening that aren't aware of your work, on why you have some skepticism on the reports that we'll get, the official reports? And
I started studying this type of stuff with the Las Vegas shooting. And with the Las Vegas shooting, I was given the autopsies by the guys at Fox News. So Fox News in Vegas sent me the autopsies when they got them from the coroner. You guys still hear me? Am I still?
yes.
All right, so I got all the autopsies for the Las Vegas shooting, not just Stephen Paddock's. And I started studying the autopsies. And one of the things that was strange was that they didn't do any diagrams. They were, again, it's like the worst shooting in American history. And it's like, you do trajectory diagrams for other autopsies. Why wouldn't you do it for the worst one in history? Why are you skipping that? And so I did them. I went out and got graph paper. And I, because they gave you the dimensions. They said, it entered the skull 1.5 inches to the right of the vertex. So they gave you the coordinates, but they didn't do any diagrams. So I took the measurements, got graph paper, and did it. I did it the old-fashioned way. And I started diagramming the autopsies. And I uncovered the fact that, basically the Las Vegas shooting was a huge cover-up of an assassination attempt on the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who was at the Four Seasons upstairs. That led into the cover-up of COVID, which turns out was actually a bird flu pandemic, and it was our virus. And I basically audited the CDC and the WHO and figured out what was going on. That they were hiding an influenza A pandemic bird flu, and 1/4 of the egg-laying chickens on Earth died. Right? And I'm looking at Hong Kong, there's not 10 dead. I'm looking at Shanghai, there's not 10 dead. Nobody's saying anything about it. And this is when it really started to dawn on me that, man, it's not just the, Project Mockingbird or Operation Mockingbird. They're all CIA. Maybe not Maria Bartiromo, but just about all of them. And none of them are going to say, hey, by the way, there's not 10 people dead in Shanghai. How do you pull that off? How do you get no one to say that? To me, that's just remarkable. And so that's when it kind of hit me like, man, Langley completely controls the news cycle. Complete, like it's not a theory anymore. It's now evident. There weren't 10 people dead in Hong Kong. There weren't 10 people dead in Shanghai. There weren't 5,000 dead in China, according to Johns Hopkins. And Anderson Cooper didn't think that was interesting. I'm like, wow. Then we have the first meteor impact of the last 1,100 years in Akure, Nigeria. Nobody mentions that either. And I'm like stunned by this. Then I figure out that the vaccines weren't really for COVID because Trump ordered them on January 13th, according to Mike Pence. Mike Pence tweeted that Trump ordered the vaccines January 13th from Moderna. And Ivanka tweeted the same thing the same day as Mike Pence. I said, Daddy ordered vaccines from Moderna on January 13th. You all should basically kiss his ring. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. January 13th, there's only one person dead on Earth with COVID, and there's only 44 cases. We didn't need vaccines for COVID, for SARS-CoV-2. The vaccines he was ordering that day were for something called H7N9, a bird flu that was gain of function out of Wisconsin. COVID was a CIA cover-up of that. That's what these guys do. That's what the CIA does, is they cover up embarrassing stuff that we do and blame it on other people. And they're really good at it, obviously, because everybody fell for this. There were two viruses. SARS-CoV-2 is real, but it probably only killed about 50 or 60,000 Americans. The 1.2 million that died really died from a type of influenza A called H7N9 that can infect anything. It can infect your organs, your skin, your red blood cells, anything in your body. And it's a gain-of-function virus. It's a bioweapon. So I kind of figured all that stuff out. And then COVID comes along, and not COVID, the Butler shooting. And I started working with a guy who's kind of a really talented guy using Blender to model the venue in 3D. And we did a whole bunch of ballistic trajectory analysis of the 8 shots taken in Butler that we can hear. And what we realized is that there was more ballistic activity happening downrange than we could account for with just 8 shots. Meaning Trump gets hit at the first audible shot, but we see other things being hit that aren't on the same trajectory line as Trump's ear from the rooftop. So how could they both be getting hit by the same bullet at the same moment if they don't line up? And that introduces a second shooter. And 2 congressmen went and testified to the committee and said, you need to see John Cullen's work on this. He's basically illustrated that there had to have been a second shooter. And you may disagree, but you need to see it. They testified to this under oath. Both Eli Crane, who is a former Navy SEAL sniper from SEAL Team 2. Okay, so SEAL Team 2's sniper. Now you guys know Jocko Willink, or Willick. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Jocko was SEAL Team 2. So Eli Crane is a congressman, SEAL Team 2 sniper, and he's testified to Congress that he's seen this ballistic evidence that I put together and that Congress needs to look at this. And then Corey Mills, who was 82nd Airborne, a medic, said the same thing. He said, when you look at what Cullen is presenting here, it's compelling. Like, you guys have to see this. So this was congressional testimony. It's on the record. And Forbes ran a clip of all this and all that. So we modeled all this in 3D, did a lot of ballistic trajectory analysis similar to the work I was doing on the Vegas shooting. I calculated a lot of trajectory stuff using dead reckoning and triangulation. And basically the same thing ShotSpotter does, I did using a spreadsheet. So I was timing the crack thump from different people's cell phones. And I knew where they were standing because I could see their footage. I knew, it's like the little chicken thing is right over here, and there's the Pepsi sign. We could figure out where they were. So knowing where they were, I placed them in Google Earth in the venue. And then I use the audio, the crack thump stuff to figure out, okay, where's the shooters? And it absolutely was not Mandalay Bay. The shooters were all over the place, meaning they're moving. So that's the background, meaning I've got a fair amount of experience with ballistic analysis, acoustic analysis. And in the case of Butler, it appears I found the second shooter. And so after Corey Mills and Eli Crane testified to Congress about it, I was contacted by Tulsi Gabbard's office, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And they got in touch with me and said, would you be willing to talk to the Homeland Security Inspector General that is looking into this? Because now Secret Service now reports to Homeland Security. So everybody that was in Butler, protecting Trump in Butler, they report now to Kristi Noem. She's in charge of Secret Service. So Tulsi Gabbard's team asked me to get with Kristi Noem's Inspector General and show them my stuff. And I have. That's already taken place. All right, so we already had our first session, and we're scheduling a next session, then this happened. So the good news here is the good guys are in charge now. They weren't when Butler was taking place. And they're not dropping it. It may look like they're dropping it to the public, but they're not dropping Butler, I can tell you that. And now with this happening, and it looking so similar, it looks like we've got a rooftop shooter with a rifle again, this time with the proper optics. And you see the result. This is what we were supposed to see the day Trump was shot. Supposed to watch him, same thing that happened to Charlie is what we were supposed to see that day. It's a horrifying thing. I can also tell you that my hypothesis here is that he was aiming at center mass and the shot went high and right, which is common on a first shot on a cold barrel. For any of you guys who shoot 100 yards and longer, you know what I'm talking about. Your first shot on a cold barrel will often go high and right or high and left based on your gun. And a fair number of my guns go high and right. And so aiming at center mass, it goes high and right and hit his carotid artery, and that's what killed him. So that's what I got, guys.
So there's your backstory on John, and that's why we were having him on, and that's why he's the best expert you can have. I don't care what other spaces are running. You're going to get the most information from this space tonight, having John here with us. John, what's your thoughts? I mean, 200 yards, supposedly, right? There's no way a lunatic is going to be able to be calm enough to take one shot like that, and only one shot, and be accurate just with nerves alone. What are your thoughts on that? Does that seem more like a seasoned sniper?
Is the guy we see in this video footage that they're taking into custody with this gun? Is this Lee Harvey Oswald all over again? Is this, where was this kid? Was this kid on another rooftop? Was this kid in the book deposit? Where was this kid? Again, this is like illusion stuff. It's like magic. So we see them take the kid into custody with a rifle. We see somebody running around on a rooftop. I can't tell you the guy running around on the rooftop is the kid they took into custody. So that's what makes this whole thing now, if they come forward with all the video footage. One of the things that I shared right before we started the space is that campus security said, we have the shooter on video leaving the campus. So, so you guys have got that Track-O-Matic with the joystick and all that, and you're tracking the vehicle out off the campus. Well, that means they've got a fair amount of video footage, and they're not going to show that to us unless somebody in Utah goes and forces that to happen. I'm sure, maybe we'll get to see tiny bits and pieces of the way Chuck Grassley spoon fed us last time. When Chuck Grassley showed us the body cam footage from the rooftop in Butler, he picks up the story like 12 minutes after these guys arrive there and kind of throws everything off on the timeline. Now, we're joining in the middle of the story. So as these guys trickle out content, don't jump to conclusions. Oftentimes they're going to trickle out stuff that's in the middle of the story. And they'll show us some videotape, but we're not going to know what happened right before this or right after that. So it could be simple. Like, again, I was hoping Butler was just some crazy kid. I said that to Jason 100 times. I thought it was like a Dylan Klebold, Eric Harris thing all over again, but it was one kid, and he's, pimply face, and that was it. And that's what I was hoping was the case. And I hope that's the case here, and that this isn't some complex 3D kill box again with, suppressed gunmen. And I mean, imagine if it's the same playbook. Imagine if we've got a kid with a gun that can be heard and shooters with suppressed weapons again. I mean, I'm going to get goosebumps if that happens. It's too soon. I haven't been able to put all the stuff in Audacity and, But I think we're all seeing the same stuff when we're studying the footage. I mean, we're seeing the shirt move. We see Charlie look up for a moment. At least I saw that. And then the head falls and the blood starts gushing. And that appears to be, the carotid's ruptured. Is he hit once? Is he hit twice? And that's what we got to dig into now. And this is the part of my job that, man, I tell you, it feels like I work in a mortuary having a study film like this. It sucks.
It's just insane because, it's just back to back, same story, same, excuses. For those who don't know, Shot Spotter is a device that picks up sound of gunfire. A lot of your major cities have them. They can pick up the caliber of rifle or handgun and count how many shots and give you pretty good geographical location of where the shots came from. How they didn't have that in Butler or with Trump with the Secret Service detail makes no sense. I understand not having it on a college campus, but
they have it in Minneapolis, and we had that church shooting August 27th. Okay, so 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago today, in fact. So 2 weeks ago today, we had the church shooting in Minneapolis by Robin Westman that shot and killed 2 children, injured 15 kids in a church 2 weeks ago today. They have Shot Spotter. And there was a shooting the day prior, just 4 miles from there, which is, like I drive 4 miles to go to the supermarket. It's nothing. So right up the road was another shooting the day before with an AR-15, and it was captured on Shot Spotter. Why do we not have the Shot Spotter from the next day at the church? Where's all that? Why? You guys turn the microphones off? Why is there no and is there? I don't know that we know that there isn't a Shot Spotter around Utah Valley University. There may be. Again, are we going to have to file a subpoena? A Freedom of Information Act thing? Right to know in order to get that information? So, we know they've got somebody in custody. We know this guy's got a rifle. We know it's got a scope. How far away is going to depend on, the crack thump measurements and the caliber and all that kind of stuff. We see somebody on a rooftop, but it's hard to tell the distance. And it's kind of hard to tell, well, which roof is that person on? I went into Google Earth and I've posted some images of the vicinity, and you can see there's something called Sparks Auto, but I can't tell if this person is on the rooftop of the building that says Sparks Auto or not. Are they on the rooftop behind it's could be an optical illusion. So soon, hours after it happened, the idea is you don't jump to conclusions. You assemble evidence, and you let the evidence tell the story, and it will. It always does.
What do you think the motive is going to be behind this? Any thoughts?
He was at the point where they were talking about how many mass shootings were trans shooters. That's where they were in the discussion, and that's when the rounds went off. Some folks are posting something of somebody that appears, again, I don't know if it's real or it's a hoax, right? People could be creating stuff now and posting crap on TikTok or Instagram. But it appears that there was somebody that said, Charlie Kirk is coming to my school tomorrow. I hope he evaporates or something. So somebody posted that now. Is it connected? Is it a hoax? I don't know.
That was actually on X. I saw it earlier. It was live. It's been taken down since, but I actually took screenshots myself. So.
Yeah, that's what I do. I save everything that I can that I think is relevant, because stuff you think is going to be there isn't. I mean, literally, stories about the Minnesota church shooting are starting to disappear. So, when they don't want stuff covered, it's gone. And I think that the story of the killing of the Ukrainian girl was promoted on purpose to take attention away from some of these other killings.
I think I agree with you 100%, John. That's exactly why these events are happening. It's to take away of all the other mass events that we have in this world that are going on. It's to shy away, because you don't hear people talking about anything of a major event that's happening.
What about Doha? Nobody's talking about what happened in Qatar.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And Qatar is like, F you, Israel. I mean, it's like they could bomb the shit out of Jerusalem tonight. Easy. I mean, it won't be pretty, but Israel just flew into Qatar and blew something up instead of making a phone call and saying, hey, Qatar guys, why don't you guys go take care of some business for us, huh? Show us you're for real. Okay.
That was one of the things I was thinking about, with because of Charlie Kirk. That one, it's just some lunatic ideology.
That's what you hope. That's what you hope for, because that's the simplest explanation. And then we can fold up the tent and move on, right? If it's more complicated than that, then it's like, oh boy, here we go again. Like Butler. I mean, Butler's obviously not one person. There's clearly two additional shooters. So it's like, again, that's why I'm talking to the Inspector General and Homeland Security. It's a real, that's a real conspiracy, and they know it. Tulsi knows it. Christy Nolan knows it. Or they wouldn't be talking to me, of all people. What the hell are they coming to me for? Of all the people in the world, really? They're going to come to me? Obviously, we nailed it.
That one diagram that you have up in Butler with the president pointing up towards the jumbotron, and then you pointing out if the shot was fired from the rooftop where it supposedly came from, the president wouldn't be with us. That it actually had to come from another direction in order to clip his ear like it had.
Well, it turns out all of these shots and the trajectories from the rooftop don't really work. They work from the window below the rooftop. They work beautifully. We have eyewitnesses saying they hear bullets or shrapnel under their feet on the bleachers. It's like shots are passing below their feet. They hear it, they feel it. You got multiple eyewitnesses saying this. You can't do that really from the rooftop. That had to come from the window. That the kid on the roof may have gotten some shots off, but I'm not convinced he was shooting towards Trump. I believe he was shooting towards the Secret Service guys and That was his mission. His job was to shoot Hercules 1, the guys who killed him. That was his mission. Somebody else was assigned to shoot at the other Hercules guys. And then another guy was shooting at the president and got away. And I believe that person was in uniform. And, I mean, these are some creepy cover-ups, man. And this one, may take a similar turn. I hope it's simple. I hope the kid that they took into custody says, that bastard Charlie Kirk, I've been trying to kill him for years. And that it's a simple story, and the guy's nuts, and that's that. If this kid is like, I didn't shoot anybody, I was told to, be... And it opens it up to anything. I mean, people talk about, wasn't Mossad hit because he's been so critical of Israel? Would they do something like that? I don't know.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking about. How could this be spun, for a state actor or even within the United States to sway opinion?
So this
I was
is
like,
how you
wow.
start sketching it out, right? So if we had a whiteboard, right, we'd have an area over there. Was it Israel? Was it Mossad? Right? Because he's been critical. He's been hypercritical of Israel and Gaza and all that stuff. I guess like Candace Owen, right? Like Ian Carroll. I mean, a whole bunch of people have been. In fact, all of Hollywood is super hypercritical. They won't do any movies now that have anything to do with Israel. It's like 1,000 of them I was reading in Breitbart. So, was Charlie standing out that much more than Candace Owen or anybody else that he would get killed? I don't know. But you put it up on the whiteboard. It's a placeholder. It's like, could it be, is it possible? Right? Was it Venezuela? Probably not. Right? So you work in likelihoods. The likelihood that it would have been a professional hit coming out of Israel from a Mossad team is higher than it was North Korea or Venezuela. But is it likely? And is it more likely that it was somebody who felt completely offended by this position among the trans community? Keep in mind, this event was about trans shooters, right? The whole event was about mass shooting and trans people. So, you push somebody's buttons who's in the midst of it or whose lover is in the midst of it, and, I think we've seen the movie before, and that's what they were there to talk about. So if it's that simple, it's we can button this thing up. That would be preferable to, holy shit, somebody assassinated Charlie Kirk. That's on purpose, and it has nothing to do with transsexual stuff. Right? That's where it gets creepy. Was Charlie Kirk becoming too powerful in the Republican Party? Was Charlie Kirk advocating for things that other parties felt he was gaining too much traction? Was Turning Point USA gaining too much political power that other political operations felt that he needed to be eliminated? I don't know. But we put all these on the whiteboard as placeholders, and we keep accumulating evidence until the evidence, almost like a Ouija board, is all going to start to accumulate in a certain area. And it's all going to start looking like, all right, this is probably what happened here. Probably. And this is the difference between deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is where we get to see all 52 cards. And if you deal all 52 cards, or you deal 51 of them, I can tell you what the 52nd card is before you turn it over, because you just showed me 51 cards. But if you've only got 27 cards in your hand, out of a 52 card deck, and you turn over 26. I have no idea what that 27th card is. How the hell am I supposed to know? You don't have 52 cards. That's what we deal with inductive reasoning. We're not going to get all the evidence. They're never going to show it to us, like the Vegas shooting. They hide stuff. They redact stuff. They make up stuff. So it's like trying to solve a puzzle that's got FU pieces in it. Pieces that look right but don't fit. Imagine that. Imagine buying a puzzle for your kids that has 1,000 pieces of lighthouse. And in the 1,000-piece puzzle, there's 16 pieces that look right but don't fit. Wouldn't that be fun? That's what we deal with here. The Las Vegas Metro Police Department forged evidence at the crime scene. They broke the window. They probably put the blue hose there. They put the 3-pound sledgehammer there. They dumped the box of brass. So the evidence we're being presented with isn't even legitimate in many cases. And you got to figure that out. All right, so I hope this is simple. I hope this is not another Butler. But if it is, we're going to solve it. If this kid that they just took into custody is a patsy, we'll figure it out. That tends to be what we do. So I'm confident that we will. But man, what a heavy thing to have to study. Tragic event. Guy was only 31 years old with 2 kids.
I think it's so sad. I think, well, I mentioned earlier, I think this is like his assassination is almost like a Martin Luther King of 2025 because he is so liked amongst all conservatives. You know, where Trump wasn't, there was a divide. Not everyone liked him, but Charlie Kirk was loved, especially by the younger generation.
Yeah.
So all these kids absolutely loved him.
That's going to be the interesting twist here, is going to be, what happens. One of the things that I've noticed over the course of the last couple of years, I guess since the COVID thing hit, was we were witnessing, and probably mostly on Twitter, I don't use Instagram or any other stuff, but we were witnessing people protesting in Europe, in the Netherlands. Remember the farmers spraying manure all over the city hall and stuff with the tractors, bringing the tractors downtown. They were protesting in Italy. They were protesting in Chile. They're protesting all over the world. Not in America. I mean, other than the BLM riots and all that, I mean, that's a different type of thing. And with the bricks, if somebody's paying for the bricks, you're going to have a riot. But I'm talking about normal people. Like back in the 60s, people used to show up for things and protest and walk around the circle with a sign. They don't really do that in America anymore. But they do it in other countries. And that's kind of weird to me. I'm like, well, what happened to Americans? Americans don't take a stand anymore? Americans don't show up on Wall Street downtown and flood this, Broadway, and because they're doing it in the Netherlands, and they're doing it in Italy, and they're doing it in Germany, and they're doing it in England. Why are they not doing it in America? And so my hypothesis is, I go to Grok, I go to Perplexity. What country consumes the most SSRIs? And how does SSRI consumption in America compare to Netherlands, Italy, Germany? Oh, it's like magnitudes more, huh? If you medicate your public into complacency, they won't complain. People's lives are miserable. They work for assholes. So they take Wellbutrin. and life's not quite as miserable. And you don't quite give a shit as much anymore. So whether it's Wellbutrin, Paxil, Zoloft, Prozac, it doesn't matter. It's all of the above. And America, I think, is beyond 10% of the adult population is on the stuff. And so if you can get enough people to kind of not really care, not really going to go down there, parking and all that, how are we going to find parking? And nobody gets off their ass in America. But in Netherlands, are jumping on the tractors and flinging dung all over the place. I'm like, damn. What are SSRI sales in Netherlands? It's like 0. I think we've medicated ourselves into complacency. I could be wrong. But it seems like Americans just, whatever. Did you see Ariana Grande? Boy, she sure could use a sandwich, huh? I mean, that's the American mentality. It seems to me. I mean, again, you guys might think I'm being a little bit too caustic, but we just don't seem to stand up for anything anymore. And is this the turning point? No pun intended. Is this the thing where his audience? You're right. He's 20-year-olds. He's 22-year-olds who, by the way, weren't born September 11th. Good portion of his audience was like, yeah, that happened before I was born. This is a new generation. You're absolutely right. They, to them, conservatism is what they kind of grew up with through high school. Is watching Charlie Kirk and Turning Point. And then they go to those events. He's got 8,000 people in a ballroom. I mean, these events are massive. What are those kids now going to say? What are they going to do? Because, well, you're right. He's kind of got an army of supporters who are devastated today. What is going to happen in the next 2-3 days? It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, I have 3 kids. 2 are in high school. 1 just graduated. They're all very upset by this. And online, arguments and fighting is already happening, and thoughts of fighting in school tomorrow over this. Because some were saying, I feel bad, but I don't want to say anything because I don't want to be targeted. And they're just jumping on each other. So I think it's going to have a larger impact than anything recent. This is like their 9/11. These younger kids, they grew up with Charlie Kirk, watching him on TikTok, YouTube. Uh, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this plays out, and all those impacted, just by following him. Whether it's just like a 5-second, 15-second TikTok video, they're engaged.
And, I don't think it's being, overly dramatic to compare it to Martin Luther King. Certainly he was a pivotal person in history before he was assassinated. And his assassination itself became a turning point, became a pivotal moment in history. I think you're right. I think we're going to see some similarities here as this plays out. Today being the day. It's like you're in it. We don't have any perspective yet. And give it a couple days. I mean, again, his organization, the Turning Point organization, like their headquarters and all that, like they got a big office, right? They got people that work at this place. They're used to seeing him come in, 2-3 days a week into the office when he's not out speaking at different places. And they got a big operation to pull off these events. Like you were saying, you do events. You were an event coordinator. You've seen his events. You know what it takes to pull off an 8,000 people, 5,000 people in a ballroom with the cameras and the audio and the multimedia and the lighting. And I mean, it's an incredible undertaking. The fact that he's been doing this and he's only 31, kind of remarkable that he was able to get to this scale so quickly. It's one hell of a success story. And I mean, you were doing this, right? You were doing event coordination. You know what it's like. Pull something like he was doing this all over the place, his Turning Point event, right? They were doing them in Florida, right? They were doing them all over, right? Where was he doing these big events?
Where wasn't he doing these big events?
Right. I mean, but they were big. Like he was kind of like there was that. What was the one that other guy does out in Vegas? Something Pack. I'm not terribly fond of the guy either. He's
I know you're talking about with the white hair.
CPAC. Yeah.
Yep.
CPAC. So it's kind of like CPAC was sort of the big event, and Turning Point kind of lapped those guys with the not just the youth, but in size and scale. Like CPAC, I guess, is still relevant, but my broadcast partner, when I was doing the podcast shows every Friday night, Jason dug into that guy. That's like a whole tax thing. I mean, that's a debacle. Like, you guys can't even imagine what's going on there behind the scenes at CPAC. Jason got thrown out of an event, and that was the wrong thing. I mean, you don't want to do that. He starts auditing the books, and next thing you know, he's like, oh, what do we have here? Look at this. And Turning Point kind of eclipsed those guys and became kind of the big, significant conservative platform where all the big names were showing up to speak. I mean, that's why everybody's so devastated, is everybody knows the guy. Everybody went to speak at his events. So, yeah, this is going to be a pivotal thing. I'm kind of on pins and needles to see how this plays out with that group, with that generation, the generation that's been watching him now for 5, 6, 7, 8 years now, right?
Absolutely, and I've mentioned in other spaces because my kids went through it. They went through the 4 years of Biden and how they were the ones that were not normal, and they had to deal with all the bullshit. And when they broke out of college, and then Trump won, and now they've gotten to college, and they turned to Turning Point USA for an avenue, saying, "Look, we are normal. This stuff that they're telling us." Like, my kids had a litter box in the bathroom for the furries. I mean, it was just sheer nonsense, clown world, and they rebelled, just like every generation rebels, and they rebelled conservative, just like this crypto community. Majority of them, all younger. I'm in my 50s, but for a younger group, they're all very conservative minded, and I think it was the rebellion and the push for the Biden administration and part of the Trump administration, all the lies and bashing that us older folks would listen to the mainstream media. They were online and they were getting the facts and they were replaying the videos and they knew all this stuff was lies. So yeah, I think this is going to be a pivotal point. I think it's going to start off on the college campuses. That's just my guess. You're going to start seeing these college campuses walkouts because this assassination. That's what it was, an assassination, political assassination.
Yeah.
I think you're going to start seeing that at the college campuses.
The other thing is that there are kids that he was impacting 4 or 5 years ago that were on campus that are now employed, 24, 25, 26 years old. And their experience at these Turning Point events, they may credit with where they are in their career and the choices they've made. And, now they're 24, 25, 26 years old. That's the group that I'm kind of most interested in, because some of those folks are already vice presidents at media companies and things like that. Some of those folks are in Hollywood already. Some of those folks are in a position to make some noise. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in the days after. what's going to happen tomorrow, September 11th, right? So now we've got tragedy on tragedy, right? And then in the days that follow. So tomorrow's Thursday. So it'll be a September 11th day, and we have to set the Charlie Kirk thing aside. And then that'll take us into Friday. Hopefully nothing tragic happens on Friday. But the concern that I had with this Ukrainian killing, the Ukrainian girl on the train, is that it happened before the church killing in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. The Ukrainian girl was killed on the train August 22nd. Robin Westman, the transsexual that shot up the church, did that on August 27th, 5 days later. And all of a sudden, the news of the Ukrainian girl getting killed kind of hits the news cycle this week. I'm like, but that happened before the church shooting. Where were all you guys back on August 23rd, 24th, 25th? How come nobody was all incensed back then? And we start digging into this Robin Westman story, and it turns out Robin Westman speaks Russian, writes, reads Cyrillic, and writes an entire journal in Cyrillic, the Russian alphabet. But it's English words written in Cyrillic. You know, like everybody you know has never heard of anybody doing ever in your life. English words written in the Russian alphabet. And he speaks Russian. And he can read it. And Anderson Cooper doesn't find that interesting. All the journals are written in Cyrillic. To them, it's been a footnote. Was Robin Westman adopted? Because when they got divorced, it says they had no kids. So was Robin Westman adopted? Well, what are they trying to hide? Why don't we have the body cam footage from the cops as they approach dead Robin Westman outside the church, like we do for the Audrey Hale thing in North Carolina? Audrey Hale was another transitioning transsexual, shot up the thing in North Carolina, killed 6 people, I think. And the cops engaged Audrey. And again, I don't remember if Audrey was a girl transitioning to a guy or was a guy. I forget. I think it was a girl transitioning to a guy, but I could be wrong. Audrey Hale kills 6 people, and the cops engage her and shoot her. And we see it all on body cam. So why don't we have the body cam of this Robin Westman in Minnesota outside the church? Just shot and killed 2 kids and injured 15 kids with an AR-15? Dude, you shoot my kid with an AR-15? I'm taking your fingers off one at a time with a pruning shears. We're going to go one knuckle at a time. Shoot my kid with a fucking AR-15. What are you, out of your mind?
Yeah, it's crazy how they swept that whole story under the rug.
Well, how do you do that? Find me a story of a blonde chick getting killed. And it's even better if you got a black guy killing a blonde-haired chick. That's perfect. Anybody got one of those?
And she's from Ukraine.
Even better. That's perfect. Oh, it's a perfect story. Wag the dog. What was the story about the shoeless Joe? Where's the shoe? So a beautiful blonde-haired Ukrainian is killed by an insane black guy that we let out of prison 20 times in a row. Where the hell did that story come from? It happened 5 days before the church shooting.
Because it's perfect.
It's fucking perfect. Come on. She's got blue eyes, blonde hair.
Now you're pushing the black community against the white community. You're taking away from the incident at the Catholic Church and the mass shooting.
You got it.
And
the fact that there was a shooting the day before, 4 miles away, at the Colin Powell Center. So So there's this Colin Powell Community Center up the 4 miles up the road. And that's where there's another shooting just 24 hours before the church shooting with an AR-15, and somebody's killed. 6 people were injured. Was it the same guy? Was it this kid? Because they haven't found that shooter either. And all of a sudden, the story switches to crazy black guy that we let out of prison 20 times kills this gorgeous Ukrainian chick. I was like, what? When? When did that happen? Oh, August 22nd. 5 days before the church shooting, huh?
John, we got 2 hands up for questions. I'm gonna get
Yeah,
to them. I don't know which was the first.
Hit me.
Go ahead, Cecil.
Yeah.
I was going to say an update. The suspect in Charlie Kirk's killing has been interrogated and released, and it appears the shooter is still at large.
Oh, shit.
Index. Yeah.
Well, are they talking about the guy with the rifle? Or are they talking about the first guy that they hogtied and carried out? Because that might be like an.
I think this is the second guy. This is the second guy.
It is.
It is
The
the
guy with the rifle. Yeah. Second guy.
So the guy with the rifle just happened to be hunting elk? Holy shit. They still don't know who it is? Oh my
They're playing this, man. I mean, this whole thing is weird.
shit. So this is just the dude happened to have a gun in his car on the gun rack. He's like, dude, I hunt elk. Here's my hunting license. Leave me alone. And they're like, shit, this is not the guy. Holy shit. And I
can't believe they released him already.
Right? He must have had he must have been like, dude, guys, here's my hunting tag. What are you talking about? Look in the back, I got rattler thing, I got deer skank in the back, right? That stuff that smells. You buy that at Cabela's? He probably was like, it's Utah.
Oh, that stuff's no joke. I accidentally spilled some in my trunk once.
Nasty, man. Nasty. But if he's a legitimate hunter and he's got his gun in his car and somebody goes, officer. So we're back to, we now have a shooter on the rooftop that disappeared. So
you know what it was?
What?
He couldn't see Charlie, so he was using the scope, so he had a better view.
I guess. But so what happens now that this guy got released is that the pendulum just swung back towards conspiracy. Yeah. So we were hoping, I was hoping this was the guy. He was nuts. And the case was closed. And that's not the case again. So now that whole could it be the Mossad twist just became more likely again, right? 20 minutes ago, it was quite unlikely. That's what I mean. It's hard to say in the first day or 3 or 5, whatever, what's really going on. It's hard to say. In Butler, we were hearing all that water tower stuff in the first couple of days. Is there somebody up there? What the hell's going on? But I couldn't find any ballistic evidence of shots taken from up there. I see stuff up there, but I don't have any ballistic evidence of a shot taken from the water tower yet. The only thing that's weird with the water tower is that Eric Prince from Blackwater said that the snipers took a 488-yard shot, and the Hercules guy was only 190 yards from the kid on the roof of AGR, so the guy they call Thomas Crooks. So that shot was only 190 yards. And Eric Prince said that they took a 488-yard shot. I'm like, 488 yards? That's rather specific. Could have said 500-yard shot, but he said 488. And so then I go to the map, and I'm like, all right, well, where are all the counter sniper guys located? Well, there were the 2 groups that we see on the rooftops, and then there were 2 others over by these grandstands. When you measure from them to the water tower, it's exactly 488 yards. And it's like, well, why is Eric Prince talking about 400? Who was taking a 488-yard shot? And from where to where? Because the guy who killed the kid on the roof only took a 190-yard shot. So what the hell is Eric Prince talking about? And then you go to the map and you're like, well, from that guy to the water tower is 488 yards. Did they shoot somebody on the water tower too? I don't see any footage. I don't see anybody up there. I don't see a body hanging off the railing. We don't see blood dripping. I don't hear anybody on a thing say, "Wow, that guy just got popped." You hear a couple women say they shot the guy on the water tower, but that's about it. So here we are over a year later. I still don't know. But that doesn't change the fact that there clearly were at least 2 shooters and most likely 3. I mean, the 2-shooter thing I can tell you definitively, 99.9% certain there's 2 shooters in Butler. And I'd say I'm probably 90% certain that there are 3. And now we got to dig into this. And again, now we don't have a shooter. We got a hunter taken into custody outside the yogurt store.
Just want to know what the motive is, man. No, I mean,
Don't know. How about
it's insane.
How about the poor guy, the 60-something-year-old guy they hogtied and carried out like an animal? I mean,
oh God,
I hope
that's embarrassing out of itself.
I mean, come on, man. What kind of lawsuit is that? I hope.
Yeah.
And then right away they put his name out also.
2 different names. We got right. We got first they gave us one name and then they gave us another name. And so no, it's not that this guy. And then it turns out no, it has nothing to do with that guy.
No, they got it wrong.
And I mean, I would just say, if you guys live in Provo or Orem, Utah, you might want to stay in tonight. I mean, tonight might not be the right night to be walking around. They're looking for a shooter. Shooter's on the loose. And they're arresting anybody they think looks like,
potential suspect.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, think
if you go out to
think about the nightmare it is. For
don't wear a hoodie if you go out tonight.
Think of the nightmare it's going to be for the Secret Service with all the 9/11 ceremonies.
Tomorrow? Oh, man. Yeah, everybody's on heightened alert everywhere.
And with all the technology, dude, that we have, you would think that they would catch this guy within the next hour or so. You would have thought they would have caught him way earlier.
You guys mentioned this earlier, and we were talking about ShotSpotter. There is technology that is deployable at events like this. You don't need many microphones. You need, 3 or 4 is the minimum. You need, 6 is ideal. And you just put the microphones up around the perimeter of the venue. And that's it. That's all you need. You're done. If anybody fires a weapon, it will pinpoint it instantly. Why are we not doing this?
This is why I'm scared. I am truly scared that this has got to do with something like inside the government, man. And look, I don't like to go straight conspiracy. I don't. But if you look at the last year, when it comes to political assassination attempts, it's starting to kind of go that way, in my opinion.
I hear you. I mean, that's what I was saying. Got very powerful. Turning Point became a super powerful operation. If somebody's like, no, this guy's getting too big for his britches, this red on blue internally. I mean, the 5th floor at Langley doesn't know what the 2nd floor is working on. They don't put shit up in the cafeteria. This week's cover-ups, it's not how it works. And if one group gets in the way of another group, they kill a guy? I mean, who stood? I don't know. Who is this motivated to kill him at that end of the conspiracy spectrum? Again, assuming it's not a kook. Assuming it's not some transsexual who's pissed off about the whole topic. Assume it's a political thing because of the power of Turning Point. And if that's the case, who do we start, who becomes our list of usual suspects?
I mean, don't you think that, okay, I've been following Charlie Kirk for some time now, and I'll tell y'all right now, I really do believe that he was going to be a president of the United States in the future. He was, for the Republican side, he was super smart, was doing things that nobody's ever done.
All right, so
he's definitely, and that's why I feel why I feel the way I feel about it. I
want to nip him in the butt before he got too.
And they want to nip him.
Yep, nip him in the butt before he gets too much power. And if he's talking about an incendiary topic, we can blame that. We can find the patsy, pin it on the topic. He's talking about transsexual shooters. And we pin it on that. The fact that we're concerned that he's the next Secretary of State and the next president, that's the real motive. And nobody's ever going, that'll never leave the parking structure. No, those are conversations that take place in parks.
It's just becoming the usual now, and that's what's scary.
That's why,
Come on, man.
that's important to do what we're doing, to figure this stuff out, because the media is obviously compromised. There's no investigative journalism anymore. What we used to see from 60 Minutes or whatever, that's all gone. Right? That doesn't happen anymore here in America. They still do it in Australia, which is interesting, but here they don't. So we have to do it. And if we can keep pinning these guys to the mat, where congressmen have to testify and say, look, we've seen evidence of this, we've seen evidence of that. I mean, that's what this is about, is moving the need. They've never had to do this before. Congress has never had to acknowledge crowdsourced investigative journalism. This is a new paradigm where crowdsourced investigative journalism undertaking is starting to challenge the FBI. We did it with Vegas. We did it with Butler. Pretty sure I did it with COVID and the Akure Nigeria thing and the asteroids and all that. And it's starting to get to a point where we're getting good at this. We've been doing this for a few years together as a group of people. And it's a big group. Hundreds of us, thousands of us that are participating in this. And it's starting to be, again, when the Office of the Director of National Intelligence reaches out and says, hey, would you mind talking to us about Butler? Something's changing now. Something is changing. And, it's an interesting spot for us all to be in, to get to participate in this. And it's happening in real time as we're having the conversation. We found out the guy they took into custody is not the guy. So in real time, this stuff is happening, and it's a remarkable thing to get to participate in. That's all I can say.
Cece, you have a question?
Yeah, hey, what's up? Good to talk to everybody. Now, I have a real problem with the post that the FBI director put out initially because, me being states away was able to, I think, as probably all of you were, and millions of people online, were able to kind of find out pretty quickly what was going on and even have like an idea of a shooter on the roof. We saw that video pretty quickly. We heard about an arrest that was not the shooter. That was pretty clearly communicated. And yet the FBI director goes out and posts to the public the subject of today's shooting that took Charlie Kirk's life is in custody. And that is like such like a backstab thing to say, in my opinion. And it does, if it is intentional deception, um, I don't know what's going on there, but I really have a problem with that. What do you think? What do you think, John?
So,
Can we critique the FBI director's actions there with his initial post, and then an hour later he made the correction, but the damage was kind of done at that point, and he didn't apologize for being misleading in the initial post.
Yeah, I'm not that impressed with these guys. I mean, I know that Kash Patel was the counsel for Devin Nunes at the time of the Vegas shooting. Devin Nunes was the head of the House Intelligence Committee. So they know exactly what happened in Vegas. And they just lie. They just pretend they don't. They act like, yeah, Vegas, man. They know exactly what happened. Devin Nunes knows. He was the head of the House Intelligence Committee. And Kash Patel was his counsel, his attorney. So these guys know the truth about a lot of stuff, and they're not gonna, again, their job is not to tell the public the truth. Their job is, protect America type stuff, defend the Constitution type stuff. Nowhere in there does it say, and then get on television and tell everybody what's really going on. That is not their job. And so most of the time, they're just lying. They're just absolutely full of it. Vegas shooting, field hospitals. I mean, just make shit up. I'm critical because I see what they're doing, but at the same time, I wasn't going to vote for Kamala Harris. That wasn't going to happen. But Trump has to keep a lot of secrets. Vegas shooting, this whole bird flu cover-up thing. And oftentimes, I don't think he gets to decide. I think the Joint Chiefs say to, sir, you can't tell everybody that. You can't tell them about the UFOs. You can't tell them about the bird flu thing. You can't go to the podium and tell everybody, listen, we've had this shit in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for 75 years already. Everybody calm down. He can't do that. They won't let him do it. And they won't let him go to the podium and say, guess what Obama did? Gain of function on a bird flu almost wiped out all the chickens on Earth. And that vaccine that we stuck in you, yeah, that wasn't really for COVID. That was for bird flu. He can't tell people that. So he's got to keep all these crazy secrets. What if they find out that the guy who did shoot Charlie Kirk was Mossad? Is that going to make the headlines? Is Anderson Cooper going to report that? No, we're going to have to figure that out. So who had the motive? Who wanted this guy dead? Is it really just based on him being critical of trans mass shooters, or is this way more political, way more complicated? And, we got to go to the ballistics. We got to figure out, is there more than one shooter? If there's more than one shooter, this has nothing to do with trans people. If there's more than one shooter, this is political. I see Qstin has their hand up. Qstin?
Hey, John, how are you guys today? Well, I already know how you guys are because I'm feeling the same way. I kind of wanted to just piggyback on what you're saying, and I kind of came with my own thing. The thing is, we're divided. We're all divided. It's not a white thing. It's not a blue thing. It's not a red thing. It's a people thing. Because at the end of the day, it's not those pistols that commit the crime. It's the people. You know, it's not the knife that committed the crime. It's the people. And we live in a society where everyone gets influenced very fast, whether it's positive or it's negative. With this situation last year, we seen what happened with Donald. We seen what happened, and they didn't get him. Lord's will, you know, they didn't get him. But this year, that influenced to an actual killing. We need to do better, not just as people, but as United States. You know, we live in the greatest country. All that flaws because the United States, just like every other country, have flaws. We live in a great,
Hey,
great,
you're
great,
breaking up.
great country. I'm sorry, I'm driving right now. I'm driving through the city, and I should have
You
mentioned
must
that
have
it
you
might
can't
be
hear.
breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, you got to switch to Verizon, bro. You got to
Hello, hello?
switch to Verizon.
Bro. I have to because I'm on T-Mobile, and I think it really is my actual carrier because everyone who's on Verizon doesn't have no issue. Or AT&T. I'm the only person with T-Mobile, so
I
this shit has been messing with me all day.
AT&T.
But tell me if it's lagging. Is it clear right now?
Now you're okay. And I agree with.
It's
I mean, we got to do better.
Okay,
As a parent,
we have to.
right? So I've got 3 kids. Having to explain man's inhumanity to man is one of the toughest things you ever get to do as a parent. How do you explain September 11th to your kids? It's a tough thing to do. And you're right, we've got to do better. Man's inhumanity to man is kind of what this boils down to. And you'd think that we outgrew all this shit. I'm kind of amazed that we still need armies. I mean, you know, really? We're going to go to war with China? Over what? What do we want from China?
We'll never grow out of it.
I
I'm
get
saying we'll
it.
never
It's
grow out of
because
it,
there's
brother.
too much money in it. It's almost like the
There's too much money in it, and it's generation to generation. These people aren't just waking up feeling this way. It's passed on through blood.
well.
You know,
Will this
just like if you grab a tiger.
event
Sorry.
today? Will this event today be the pivotal point that we start pressuring the government to start toning it down? And that the idea of these armed conflicts, the idea of what went on in Gaza, you know, I mean, basically, bulldozed the whole city. The idea of all this type of bloodshed seems to me so barbaric. You know, it's like, really, this is what we keep doing this? Because we're worried what China is going to attack us? They're coming to Portland? China doesn't want anything in Portland. Portland's a shithole. Why would where's China come? Where are they going to go? Miami? Going to take over Miami? That's why we need an army? Well, what are we worried? Is Putin going to come and take over New Jersey? I don't understand the need for like, really, we're going to go to war over what? Now, when Putin went into Ukraine because there were 40-some biolabs along the border, well, that's different. If there were biolabs in Mexicali and Tijuana and all that, you know, we might send some tanks in too. In fact, we might do that for the cocaine and the fentanyl or whatever. But going to war? We got the ships. So who, why, where are we going to go do this? And we go kill a whole bunch of people? Didn't we do this in Iraq? And it turned out that we were like, oops, sorry, wrong guy. Sorry. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Now, that said, you know, I'm well armed. So, just in case. But, you're right. We got to do better as people. And man's inhumanity in man has got to be the toughest thing I've ever had to explain to my kids 24 years ago.
I think actually 9/11 is a good starting point. A lot of these folks in here, at least in the community that I'm in, are young. They don't remember, they don't know what it was like the day before 9/11. When I was a kid, we all went hunting, and I would have a shotgun in my truck in the high school parking lot. I would go and take my bio test. The rest of us would all leave half day, and we'd head out to the woods. There was no shootings, but what there was you could say anything you want. You could say fag, you could say this, you could say that. Um, you might get your ass kicked, you might get into a fight, but that was it. After 9/11, everything changed. Freedoms were lost that you guys were never aware of, like flying. You wanted to fly to Miami from New Jersey? You went to the airport that day, you bought a ticket at the counter, you boarded. They didn't even check your ID. They didn't even check to verify who you were. Totally different world. But you were free to voice your opinion. Now your freedom of speech did come with consequences. Um, you know, some people be like, "Oh, we don't like him because of his stance," but you were allowed to say it. And the same thing in the schools. There was no shootings. You had a problem, 3 o'clock bell rang, you met behind the gym, you settled it, done and over with. Now everything is, oh, you can't do that. That's not right. You can't say this, regardless of what your opinion is. You're shunned. You're told you're abnormal. Well, you're depressed about it because you can't speak. Well, here's an SSD I would give you. Take that. Every physical you get, just like John was saying, the first thing they have you do when you get a physical is to take a depression test. How are you sleeping at night? Is anything bothering you? Do you have problems falling asleep? Oh, here's some Prozac. It's ridiculous. The world was totally different just as many guns. In the inner cities, you still have shootings and things, yeah, but still not at the
Here's
levels
I can tell you,
you do now.
and I'm gonna have to wrap up. I gotta tend to something here, but here's what I'll tell you. When I was a young guy, when I was a teenager, I competed in team sports, and I think losing is a really important thing. And it seems that somehow, with all this, woke crap, they decided that kids, losing is not okay, and everybody's got to get a ribbon. And the problem is that you don't really learn how to cope if everybody's a winner for participating. When you get to the real world and you find out, well, you're a loser, you didn't get the job, you didn't get the promotion, whatever it is, you don't know how to cope. Having participated in team sports as a kid, God, we used to lose all the time. And then you go out for ice cream and you realize life isn't over. You're not a loser. Everything's going to kind of be okay. And if I put in more effort and I can get the guys around me to put in a little bit more effort, maybe we won't suck quite as much next time. And you learn that losing is not the end of the world. You learn that making a bad decision and going the wrong way is not the end of the world. Feels like it in the moment. Feels like shit. Right? You come in last place. You're on the team that comes in last or second to last, and it's like, oh, God, we suck. Right? But everything's okay. Right? That seems to be
100%.
what's missing today. I could be wrong, but it seems to me that the younger generation doesn't seem to be able to cope when things aren't going quite according to plan or the way they thought things were going to go. Coping becomes rather difficult. And I think that may be why we see so many of these kids now looking into, transsexualism, meaning, getting into a relationship with somebody that's meaningful and whatever. It's not easy. Having, a romantic relationship with somebody is not easy. And if it doesn't go so easy, you might think, well, it's probably a lot easier if I was a girl, right? If I was a chick, I'd be a slut. It'd be really easy, right? And that might be the way to cope because they haven't learned how to cope normally, the way we were taught how to cope. And I don't know if it's quite as simple as that, but I can tell you that I see a lack of ability to cope in this younger generation, and I attribute my ability to cope with having participated in team sports as a young guy and losing. Right? If you're a winner all the time, there was a guy they drafted, I forget how many years ago it was like 5 or 6 years ago. There was a guy they drafted in the NFL who never lost a game in football. Like in his whole college career, his whole high school career, he never lost a game. They went undefeated like the whole time. And it's like, that's not good either. That's not good. It's like even Michael Jordan got beat. Even, guys scored on Jordan. So you learn to cope. And the Chicago Bulls didn't win the championship every year. Tom Brady lost more Super Bowls than I think anybody. So when you learn how to cope like that, you don't go shoot kids in a church. I don't know. And then you put the Prozac and the Wellbutrin and the Paxil on top of it. And now coping. What the hell do I need to cope for? My life sucks. I cope. I'll just take the Paxil. What the hell do I need to cope for? Coping's hard. I've got to commute. Anybody take the Long Island Railroad or Metro North to work? In the snow? Holy shit. You better take the Paxil. Yeah, life's a bitch. and then you die. And that's why we have pharmaceuticals. So that everybody doesn't complain quite so much. And now nobody knows how to cope. And we kind of painted ourselves into this corner, I think. So no more participation trophies. I think the tough love, there's gotta be kind of a happy medium between beating your kids with a belt and everybody gets a ribbon. There's gotta be a happy medium in there. And I think it was Louis C.K. We'll wrap up on this, guys, because again, I gotta run. Louis C.K., the comedian, said, the most important lesson that you can teach your children is how to deal with disappointment. Because life is full of it. And, that's kind of where we are right now. I mean, these shooters, we've got these killings and all that stuff. People's inability to cope. And next thing you know, they're killing people. I'm not saying Little League is the answer. But I can tell you that my ability to, keep things in perspective, do the 5-year test, if you guys aren't familiar with that, something happens that seems really bad. I say, am I going to remember this 5 years from now? Thinking back 5 years from today, where was I? How bad was it? And am I going to remember this in 5 years? And if not, not that big a deal. And I move on. I don't need Prozac. I just think it through. And a lot of that comes from losing. Year after year after year, losing and losing and losing and losing, and then finally winning. Wow. Effort is worth it. Hard work does pay off. Focus matters. And, there's important lessons to be learned that I'm afraid we stopped teaching years ago. So with that, guys, I can't thank you enough for inviting me to participate in this tragic day.
Well, John, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And, unfortunately, we had, of course, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but we were going to talk about, Butler. Thank you for all the work you do as an independent investigative journalist, because without people like you, we wouldn't be getting this information. We wouldn't be gaining the facts and the knowledge. And if there's anything I could ever do to help you, feel free to reach out to me. I'd definitely love to have you come back, especially as the story unfolds. Hopefully, we'll get the information quick. There won't be any type of conspiracy lingering attached to it. They'll be very transparent. And also, hopefully, everything will remain peaceful and nothing will break out because of this. And just remember that we are all Americans. And like you said, as growing up, I was captain of my football team in high school. We lost every damn game. We didn't win one game this season, but it was the best year of my life with my team because we all put in as much as we could and we all worked hard at it. And you learn from it.
Sure do. You sure do.
I- and to top what you said, I think a part of it is empathy. A lot of people put so much in to all these whacked ideas instead of being charitable and telling people that is wrong. That is true charity and empathy. When you can tell someone, hey, I still love you, I'll still be friends with you, but your ideology and what you're doing and what you believe is wrong. That is true charity when you can tell somebody the truth. And it seems like we're at a point where the truth doesn't really matter. It only goes by what your emotions are. And I think that is a major problem. And I think you're right that the sports and things like that teach you that. Um, if you suck, you suck. You can't, if you lost every game in the season, my father never said, this is the best football season we've had. That might have made me feel
No,
better,
but what
but it
happens
was
is
false.
none of the kids go home after the game and put a shotgun in their mouth. Everybody shows up at school the next day. And it's like, wow, that really sucked yesterday. Yeah, those guys are really good, man. That pitcher, man. He's something else, huh? That's it. People aren't, we weren't resorting to cutting ourselves back then because we learned how to cope. And however it's happened, it's a slippery slope over the course of the years. I'm afraid we've taken away whatever it is that teaches kids how to cope. I'm just pointing to my personal experiences, and this is what I think is how I learned it. Losing, like you said, losing again and again and again and again, but nobody on the team hangs themselves in the barn. It's like, no, you learn how to cope. But if you take all that away and everybody gets ribbon no matter what, and everybody gets the same prize no matter what, well, what do you mean we lost? What are you talking about? People don't know how to deal with that. And I'm afraid, it might be an American thing. As Houston was saying earlier, this might be an American thing, that we've got to take care of here. I don't know. It's too soon to tell. I think we're all kind of shaken by this. And again, I'm incredibly grateful that you invited me to participate in this. And thank you guys for sharing with me the updates on what's happened on the case as we're having this conversation, and that we do not have a suspect in custody, and we're still looking for the shooter. So onward we go. I wish you all the best. And again, God bless you all.
Thank you again, John. And then all listeners, definitely follow John. Put your notifications on. Follow him. He always has great information daily on all different topics. You don't want to miss out. Also follow myself, my co-host, all those up on stage. Put your notifications on because we constantly have spaces like that with different individuals, like experts like John here. So appreciate all of you pulling up here tonight. Sad night, but glad you were all here with us. Popping Guy, you want to take us out?
Yeah, just a few words, right? It's been a tragic day. Just, you don't have to agree with someone like Charlie Kirk, right? But I think we should always defend the right to speak, right? Whether you're left or right. Um, I believe if we condone, you know, silence by gunfire, it's like we are forfeiting the right to call ourselves a free nation, right? Um, it's crazy how you guys are saying about coping, right? Coping. I feel like free speech, right, cannot survive in a culture where disagreement leads to death. So just it's crazy. Especially because he was he was a young person. I don't think it was so much uh they were after him, but so much for a message, right? And that's for everybody that speaks like yourself here, Mav and John, right? And I think that's why it hits a little bit different, right? Because they're silencing a speaker, right? Somebody who's always expressing himself. Um, yeah, it's just a lot to take in, right? So with that said, thank you, Matt, for hosting this, and John for being here again. And that's all about it for me. However, thank everybody for coming, right? Because if you guys wouldn't come, we wouldn't be able to share ideas and hear everyone speak. Pop, if you have any words so you could close us out. If not, Mav, we're back to you.
Thank you, Guy. Those were great words of wisdom there. Definitely sums up everything we discussed tonight and today. Thank you, everyone, for pulling up. Appreciate you all here. Like I said, if you didn't show up, we would not have a space. So appreciate every single one of you. Uh, just very emotional day. Take it in strides. Everyone, have a safe night. Say a prayer for Charlie, Kirk, and his family, and all of America tonight, because it wasn't just against Charlie and his family, it was against the whole America dream. Like Guy had mentioned, you know, freedom of thoughts, you should be allowed to express those without gunfire. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Definitely a big shout out to John. Thank you so much. Like I said, if you ever need anything or need any help, please reach out. We'd love to have you back as more information comes out and we can do another deep dive. Thank you all. Those in the Type Media group, everyone in the page, you're more than welcome. We're going to be jumping over into Yama space. Unfortunately, he's only got about 8 minutes left, but we're going to jump over there to support him. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Love you all. Appreciate you all. Be safe.